So, time to go back to my reaction request list, and one of these of many that come from Jordan Fringe. Shout out to that creator. He made this video 2 years ago talking about remember Medabots, and I appreciate you guys for sending me these because a lot of these shows people forgot about. A lot of these shows people don't really think about a lot of times, but these were actually good shows to watch, you know? And Medabots is one of them. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I made it either one video or two videos talking about Medabots, which is not good enough because Medabots is, well, the Japanese name, Medarot. Um, it deserves to be talked about more. It definitely does. So what we're gonna do is look at this, take a react to this, see what he has to say about it. I gave a brief synopsis of it in my video, but I wanna see what he has to say about Medabots and that because it does need to be talked about more. And it's a shame that we don't have it anymore, but it's doing really good over in Japan. Of a phone app, a phone game app that I have no access to, and I would love to play. But in all seriousness, let's just get on with this.
Remember Medabots? It's a lot like the Wait, remember Medabots? It's a lot like the other younger skewed anime shows we grew up with like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Where
Yep.
10-year-old Ikki Tenryo wants to be the world champion at Row Battle, who
Yep.
may just be able to work towards that goal after stumbling across an older model that just needs a spark, well, a medal, to get it going. Two unlikely heroes have to work hard and train to be the best that no one ever was to be the kings of Row Battle. It's the typical story trope we've seen way before and will continue to see, as it's just nice to root for the underdogs, who clearly have this massive passion. Change this to a kid who wants to be the best, but in a tournament of...
I was getting ready to say, these shows deserve to get acknowledged, and they deserve a comeback in this era of the world. Like I'm sorry, y'all cannot tell me shit wasn't great when we had Medabots, Beyblade, Battle Beat 'em on, Digimon, old school Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, hell, if you want to take it there, Chaotix, trucking, Monster Rancher, Dinosaur King, Fighting Foodons, like those were my shows to watch. I loved those shows. I really do.
spinning tops that clash against each other, and you have Beyblade. Do that with trading cards, you got, well, all of these shows. So
Oh,
you add
right.
that companion aspect, you get a bit of that Pokemon in there. So when you see your favorite Medabot that's both yellow and named after a bee like a Transformer,
Technically, he's named after a beetle.
take that devastating hit, you feel the emotional weight of that. I like Beyblade, but here's how I felt as a kid when my Beyblade would get knocked out. Dang it. Today, I
Dang.
wanted to look back on a show that fit right in with all the goodness I loved from this bygone era of my formative years. If you enjoy this video, you better subscribe. Let's take a look into what Medabots was all about.
Yep. Roll battle.
Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe Miss, where there's going to be brand new videos every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Hop aboard.
This would come out like a year ago, so.
First, what is a Medabot? Well, that's easy. It's a robot. A robot with a cap on its height to operate as companions to whoever acquires them, as they have their own self-awareness and their own personalities, making them all unique to how they have a relationship with their human, as well as how they handle them.
A lot of people, like, have this question of, like, how would this be in the real world? We haven't haven't gone to the point where robots can be like sentient without batteries and like long wires connected to, outlets or whatnot. We're not at that point yet. But when we get to the point where a child can have a miniature sentient robot, and all they would need is this metal that was forged with some kind of like strange energy, strange like alchemy, an alchemy like energy. I guarantee you, it'll more than likely be the 25th century, because Medabots and the concept of it is like, in my opinion, it's more of ahead of its time than anything else, because we're dealing with little kids, elementary school kids, who lawfully are able to buy a knee high or waist high robot. And compared to a child, a Medabot is like right here. Like right here. Like if I'm like a Medabot, like should be right here, right to my waist. We're honestly not at that time yet. We're still at the times where like robots can like work on wheels, have those kind of like caged robot fights. We're not at that point yet where we can actually, be seeing miniature robots battling each other on two legs. The day that happens, I won't be on this planet.
Themselves in battle. They are even customizable because fashion first, always, duh, splitting up into separate parts, having the main base of the Medabot's frame holding the structure together. The arms and the legs from there, of course, and then the thing that powers them, the metal, which functions as the brain of the Medabot, what gives it that personality and flair. You can go further into finding cool and new exciting parts and upgrades to make your Medabot more powerful, or just cooler overall. In the world of the show, the hottest sport out there is Robattles, where it's robot v robot, where there are both official matches that are regulated and of course street level matches that are also in more of the street rule ideals. But as far as the show itself, we follow 10-year-old Icky, voiced by Samantha Reynolds, a determined kid who wants nothing more than his own Medabot, which his parents are not into getting for him. You know, a good rule of thumb as a parent is to never support your kid's dreams. It works every time. Despite this, after saving up as much as he could, Icky is able to afford an older model of Medabot, clearly not up to date with what others out there in the sport have themselves. But the main problem with this model is that it doesn't have a metal to make it function. It needs its ghost in the shell, if you will. Luckily, Icky does end up coming across a lone metal because that's just main character things.
Yeah.
That is explained later. And he is now able to bring the Medabot to life, and its name is Medabi, voiced by Joseph Motiki. The relationship between Icky and Medabi is quite unusual compared to others and their Medabots, with Medabi's personality being more of a think for himself and always being ready for a fight type. Icky, however, while being a bit too cocky for someone who just got a Medabot, like calm down, clashes with Medabi a lot, similar to the start of Ash's journey with Pikachu, which is coming to an end. So actually, side note, I have something special cooking for Pokemon in 2023.
Oh yeah. This was around the time where like Ash finally won the championship. He finally became world champion, and man. Oh my gosh. Bro, I was happy as hell when he beat Cynthia. Because for the longest time, people kept saying, well, Cynthia, she's unbeatable and shit like that. And then the battle that was needed to happen happened, and then we had gotten Pikachu versus Charizard. And that battle was good too, I can't lie. It was good too. Now Pokemon sucks.
Something cool for Pokemon like that. But also, my Pokemon comparisons don't stop here, specifically because of how the video game side of the Medabots franchise is handled.
Listen up, you lazy fan-hogging pest!
It's break time, Medabi! Medabots will be back on Fox Kids. Transport Newtonders! Back to Medabots on Fox Kids.
Meta building blocks.
So Medabots started off as a video game series in Japan called Medarot, which
Yep.
has constantly mainly been on Nintendo platforms, starting on the Game Boy in 1997. And here's that Pokemon comparison again, because the series launched with two different versions, with one containing Kabuto and the other featuring
Yep. One with Medabi and one with Rokusho. Yep. Now, mind you, I've tried my best to get these old versions through like ROMs. It's very hard. If you don't have the if you never played the one that was on the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, or was it Game Boy Advance, whichever one. Because that was the only one that was Americanized. Everything else, every other game that they've made, because they make games or more games than just those two that came out in the US. They made others for the DS. Man, hell, they even made a whole anniversary collection that solely is in Japan for the Switch. Not the Switch 2, but the Switch, the anniversary collection, and I wanted to buy that. And I wanted to play it. And I never got to.
Regatta on the covers. When the United States would start getting some Medarot games, now called Medabots here, we would see the release of two versions as well for Medabots on the Game Boy Advance.
Americanized versions.
Medabi on one cover and Rokushu on the other. The series would continue on with the latest mainline release coming to the Nintendo 3DS called Medarot 9 in 2015. After this, we would see Medarot Classics release on the 3DS in 2017, featuring the re-releases of the original 5 games just on the 3DS. And in 2020, they would focus on Medarot S, which would be a release for mobile devices, and Medarot Classics Plus for the Nintendo Switch.
And I never got to play a single one of them. Never had to play a single one of them. Ever. And that still upsets me to my very core, because I missed out on all of that because I'm not in Japan. This is why to this day I question why my mother decided to even give birth to me, and I'm in America and not in Japan where all this good stuff exists. Because all the stuff I like is over in Japan. All of it.
I am not skipping over anything at all. Nothing specifically in 2016, trying to, revitalize the franchise or anything of that. No, of course not.
Damn.
Okay, fine, you got me. Yes, there was a Medarot game called Medarot Girls Mission. It's full of robot battling and a bunch of incentives to win based on the amount of clothes that are portrayed on, well, what the title says.
What?
Yeah, that happened. Luckily, we're mainly talking about the show itself today, so let's
Oh
move
my
on.
God.
In Japan, the video game series would be turned into an anime, naturally airing on TV Tokyo starting in July of 1999. Cut to Nelvana, who came in to localize the show into English for both broadcast in Canada for YTV, but also in the States for Fox Kids. From September 1st, 2001 to April 27, 2002, it would air the first season of the show on Fox Kids. For beyond that, it changed to being on ABC Family from July 1st to November 2nd of that same year, finally ending on Toon Disney's Jetix block for its sequel series and reruns. It was surely passed around quite a bit, which led to viewership issues of just where to find it to watch it.
Right. Like Medabots got a raw deal when it came to that, because how are you just going to bounce it on one children's channel to another? How do you do that? And he's right when it came to that, because one moment I'm watching it on Fox Kids, the next minute, I see it on ABC Family. How? And then it bumps right to freaking Jetix? How? And why? Then I finally see it on Cartoon Network, and I'm just like, yo, what is going on? What exactly is going? And not even during the midday, the early morning. You would this was another show that they put in one of the early morning brackets.
When it comes to my overall thoughts on the show, I really enjoyed it. I was already a fan of the show from back when the English version was airing, and watching it now, it really is a charming little show. From the fun relationship between Icky and Medabi, to the action, to the comedy. This show really was trying to fire on all cylinders, and I think it actually did that for the most part. Legit, this show has so many moments that genuinely would get a laugh out of me, and at its worst, still would make me exhale air out of my nose. Constant gags that would build up tension where you're not sure what is actually about to happen, all for the tension to instantly be brought to a halt because the outcome wasn't anything too special. A good amount of the comedy as well comes from Mr. Referee.
No, let's talk about this man. Can we talk about this man? The only referee they had for these roll battles, the only referee, and I said this in my video, this man made Medabots be dope as shit because he was there at every battle, whether it was in the air, on water, at school, in the middle of the day, in the middle of a freaking busy street, and kids was roll battling. He was there, bro. He was there, and it was crazy. And don't piss him off. You piss him off, oh, he's coming for your throat. No pun intended. You're not gonna make it. I'll just say that now. You're not gonna make it. Shout out to Mr. Referee. This man made the show. He did. A lot of people will assume that it was the main character. No, Mr. Referee.
Air appears in many different ways to officiate the row battle taking place.
Yes.
It's a gag that's always happening consistently, but something I'd always be waiting to see happen in an episode. But equally as good as the comedic moments in the show was the animation and how the action was beautifully done. Compared to the other major players in the space, the action in the show took the term action literally and showed a lot more movement, momentum, and what felt like a more intensive battle. It dizzies you in the best ways possible to deliver fights that feel like there were some real stakes here. The animation itself does have a nice constant movement as well that feels a bit more polished, combining the more simple-esque looks for the humans, giving them room to show emotion with a lot more emphasis on what that emotion is. Over-exaggerating all these movements and really just playing around with this medium of storytelling. With the Medabots having a lot more detail, showing off more stoic yet powerful looks. It's a nice contrast between the humans and these soul-filled machines. It really just gives me this nostalgic feeling while watching it. The voice acting as well truly helps elevate the characters in the show, as it should, but here it doesn't feel phoned in for a dubbed version, but rather adding some gravitas to the characters like Medabi specifically, aiding in the more serious moments and intense battles, but even to the moments in between. What was also nice is that the show does establish throughout the series this bad guy group, because of course we need some
No. Can we have to talk about the Robo Gang. The Rubber Robo Gang. Goofier than Team Rocket, but are actually terrifying and weirder than Team Rocket. How could you possibly get more terrifyingly weirder than Team Rocket? How do you do that? And then in the end, they actually have the means to take over the world. Because they were trying to take over the world, taking people's medals and just using the Medabots for their world domination. And they almost did it. And this baby was freaking menacing. This baby was more menacing than all of them.
Rubber Robos aren't really what you'd call all that good or as evil as they initially come off at their job. Later on, they definitely step things up, but instead of just having them show up every episode and getting their plans foiled by the end of that episode, the show makes sure to have some fun with other antagonists throughout, giving some nice breaks from the same formula, only to bring it back in more fun ways at other times. Icky's story here grows as well, especially since getting Medabi, the two of them really are a great fit by the end of the series, proving to be great at what they both do. We meet so many cool and interesting characters that add some nice room to explore more of this world, like the Phantom Renegade, or Henry when not in that getup. Voiced by Jamie Watson, he's just this nerdy store clerk by day, but by night becomes the Phantom and is actually the reason that Icky finds the medal in the first place. The medal itself was dropped there by the Phantom Renegade, or Henry, himself, because Henry is overall pretty clumsy and not as cool as his alter ego tries to be. The medal is also pretty special itself. The powers that this specific medal holds in comparison to most Medabots is the reason he is unmatched in a lot of his early on fights. Also, learning the connections to Medabi and Henry and now Icky are pretty cool, allowing for some great world building that doesn't feel.
If I'm remembering correctly, Medabi's medal, on top of the fact that it was like Rokusho's, it contained the Metaforce. And they were trying to get both Rokusho's medal along with Medabi's because they contained that energy. It was that rare energy that made them very special. And that was the reason why the Phantom Renegade wanted it. It wasn't just the fact that it was a rare medal. It was the fact that it was more sentient than a regular role medal, than a regular Medabot medal. It was like more like, it was more of like a live personality, it was literally alive. To the point where I believe that at the end of the show, the beetle, the little bug on Medabi's medal grew. Believe it or not, but like that shit was insane when it came to when we found that out, when Rokusho started appearing.
Tacked on, but rather more planned out. Other characters like Erika, voiced by Lisa Yamanaka, who is this kid reporter, shows off a good friendship between them and Icky. We also have school bullies led by Samantha, voiced by Susan Laney Dalton, who has with her lackey Spike, voiced by Robert Tinkler, and Sloane, voiced by Darren Frost, who proved to be this annoyance for a lot of people. There's Koji, voiced by Joe Vanicola, that adds a nice rivalry factor to things, and even Karen, voiced by Ashley Taylor, who comes in serving as a romantic interest for Icky. Throughout the series, we build a fun roster of characters that serve different purposes for the narrative, but it never detracts from the rest of the series. You get some awesome action, big laughs, and a whole lot more packed into the show. But then, why was it never on the mountaintops with the other anime shows coming to the States?
The winner is Medabi! We'll be right back to Medabots on 80s.
From what I can understand and remember, I'll just say it right now, it wasn't as televised as the others. It wasn't as televised. It's the same equivalent that happened to Monster Rancher. They didn't advertise it well. It was just something that was on. Like the same thing happened, unfortunately, with Beyblade after a while. Same thing happened with Chaotix. They didn't really advertise. The same thing with Beat 'em On. They just did not. They made sure that people gave more fucks about Pokemon than they did any other show, including Digimon. Digimon could have had a better reach and a better, like, sponsoring. And the reason why I say sponsoring, because, like, more commercials, more putting the toys out there, more, wanting to Americanize the shows and make it better. Like, that should have happened more. Especially when Cross Wars happened. Like, that was the reason why a lot of people fell off, didn't understand Cross Wars. Because, like, it was at one point they showed it, but you'd have to catch it. You'd have to literally catch it and know that it was on this channel, that it was airing on this channel. Because if you didn't, you would think that Digimon just fell off. They're not making Digimon shows anymore, but they were and have been. But it was all about Pokemon at the time. It was all about Pokemon.
Family. Now, back to Medabots on ABC Family.
The series in the States would run for a few years with 52 episodes, then going into a sequel series called Medabots Spirits that contained its own 39 episodes. But why was this show never as big as the other shows like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, and more? It had a similar premise, but with its pacing, action, and comedy, it stood on its own pretty greatly. It just never had the reach. But it wasn't for lack of trying. Aside from the video games, specifically the ones that made their way to the States, it tried to follow the formula set by those other properties. A big market it was going after was the toy market. Heck, I even owned some toys growing up, with smaller toys, mid-sized toys, and full-on model kits. It would feature the ability to, just like the show, swap around parts and customize the Medabots. The packaging and overall aesthetic that Medabots went for was this digital look and this nice orange to yellow gradient title that really stands out, especially on the toys. This packaging rules, and I don't say that often when it comes to packaging. I take it very seriously. On top of that, just like everything else, it needed one more cherry on top to try and compete for attention in the space. Yep, a trading card game. And by gosh, was it that? They just dropped the ball in so many ways with it. From the quality of the print being a lot cheaper than what was out there, which may be due to Upper Deck who was doing them, but the real problem was the lack of support for the TCG. Plus, it felt like a tacked on afterthought based on the amount of cards per pack, the pull rates, and expansions. You need expansions to survive in the TCG landscape.
Yeah, you do.
To both play and collect, and while I won't lie, some of the holos here do.
Like, the sad thing is, at this right now, like, Digimon is getting that attention because they're coming out with you know, more booster packs and everything like that. But now that they've revitalized the trading card game on that aspect, like they fully revitalized it completely, because they realized that they need, you know, to like bring back things and whatnot. Because that was the main reason why Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon went on for so long, is because the trading card game and the video game. People will only remember what is relevant at the time. And at the time, it was Pokemon, and for the, you know, the people who actually dueled, it was Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's just the honest truth. I mean, there was a point where like all people cared about was like Magic the Gathering, but even that fell off at that point. I haven't heard anybody talk about Magic the Gathering in a long time. But yeah.
Look pretty cool, this TCG wasn't the franchise's main concern. The video games were, and that's why there isn't a long-running Medabots anime either. I do think that this franchise has the potential to really come back in a strong way on all fronts. The game
I believe that too.
Hasn't seen a real mainline game in quite some time, and after a failed reboot / spin-off clothing ripping off based game, they just went back to mainly releasing the classics and going to mobile. But robots, even if they are not super tall like in most other anime out there, are still really freaking cool. And if we have that same level
completely
of
cool
with the original anime, why couldn't it work now? Continue on with the game series. You stopped at 9. You were so close to getting that cool X by your name for Medarot 10. But I can't accurately gauge the popularity of the show in Japan or with the mobile game that's been out for a couple of years there. Maybe it runs well at a smaller scale and not across the world. I would love to hear your thoughts on Medabots and Medarots in general.
I can see them putting it on the Switch too in Japan. But the main thing that would definitely have it make a comeback again is if they port everything that they made over here. You can't just keep making shit for Medabots, and only keep it in Japan, knowing that there is a fan base still that's over here. And there could be a newer fan base of people who like Medabots. But y'all kept that in-house. A series of games on the freaking DS, the 3DS. And I never had to play them. And the only video games that we got, if we want to get technical, were for the Game Boy Advance. And I want to say, hold on. Yeah, and the GameCube. They made one for the GameCube, Medabots Infinity. I'm looking at it right now. That's the only way anybody can even enjoy Medabots. And that's a shame because it's still because they're still doing stuff for that phone game. It's a shame.
General in the comments below, and maybe one day the series will come back in some shape or form. Thanks so much for watching. Like and
Like, it really is a shame. But that's here or there. And that's going to be the end of this video. Mark this one down. So now that we've talked about Magi Nation, we talked about Medabots, the next one is the one that I really want to talk about, which is Fighting Foodons. I'll do that soon enough. But with that being said, I'm going to get up out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching this. If you enjoyed my take and his take on it, please make sure to leave a like. Go to his channel, support him. I know the video is a year old or whatever, but who cares? These shows deserve to be talked about. They deserve to be talked about, no matter what. This has been Master Sakurai. I'll see y'all again next time. Peace.